At the sight of him I wept and was moved with compassion, and uttering my voice spake to him winged words. Most renowned son of Atreus, Agamemnon, king of men, say what doom overcame thee of death, that lays men at their length? Did Poseidon smite thee in thy ships, raising the dolorous blast of contrary winds? Or did unfriendly men do thee hurt upon the land, whilst thou were cutting off their oxen and fair flocks of sheep, or fighting to win a city and the women thereof? So spake I, and straightway he answered and said unto me, Son of Laertes, of the seed of Zeus, Odysseus of many devices, it was not Poseidon that smote me in my ships, and raised the dolorous blast of contrary winds, nor did unfriendly men do me hurt upon the land, but Aegisthus it was that wrought me death and doom and slew me, with the aid of my accursed wife, as one slays an ox in the stall, after he had bidden me to his house and entertained me at a feast. Even so I died by a death most pitiful, and round me my company likewise were slain without ceasing, like swine glittering tusks, which are slaughtered in the house of a rich and mighty man, whether at a wedding banquet, or a joint feast, or a rich clan drinking. Ere now hast thou been at the slaying of many men, killed in single fight or in strong battle, yet thou wouldst have sorrowed the most at this sight, how we lay in the hall around the mixing bowl, and at the laden boards, and that the floor ran with blood. And the most pitiful of all that I heard was the voice of the daughter of Priam, of Cassandra, whom hard by me the crafty Clytemnestra slew. Then I strove to raise my hands as I was dying upon the sword, but to earth they fell, and that shameless one turned her back on me, and had not the heart to draw down my eyelids with her fingers, nor to close my mouth. So surely there is not more terrible and shameless than a woman who imagines such evil in her heart, even as she too has planned a foul deed, fashioning death for her wedded lord. Verily, I had thought to come home most welcome to my children and my thralls, but she, out of her depth of evil knowledge, hath shed me shame on herself and on all womankind, which shall be forever, even on the upright. You know, I thought I'd be clever after those Polyphemus episodes almost blew my voice out. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go in the opposite direction for all these shades. I'm going to do some whispering. And yeah, turns out you can strain your voice in any direction if you aren't used to speaking as such. So hopefully none of my coughs and throat clearing made it into the final episode. I'm usually good about cutting those out. But Agamemnon confirming the stories that we have heard from Menelaus and others about his untimely end at the hands of his wife and her lover. And I think that hearing it come out of Agamemnon's mouth, like, okay, everything we've heard of Agamemnon and this story before this, there's a lot relayed to Telemachus. Hearing it come out of Agamemnon's mouth to Odysseus, I think is important because it's setting up this expectation of what's going to happen when you get home. You've been striving for this thing for so long that you might be blinded by your own desire to reach a destination without paying attention to all the perils that might be awaiting you. Now, I think we know that Agamemnon is a unique situation. I mean, as a pacifist, I'm not going to say he had it coming. But, you know, it didn't come out of nowhere. Let's put it that way. So I think this is setting up a bit of tension in audiences for them to anticipate the danger that they know is awaiting Odysseus when he returns home with all the wooers vying for the kingdom in Penelope's hand. And let's not forget, too, the parallels in Agamemnon's story where Clytemnestra and her lover Aegisthus are the ones that kill him, yes, but it's Agamemnon's son who exacts revenge. it seems like Odysseus and Penelope maybe have a slightly healthier relationship than Agamemnon does. But, the fact that this is a generational thing and that Agamemnon's son is very similar to Odysseus's son. And I don't think it's any coincidence that we have left Telemachus without knowing his fate. What was it? Just the first 4 books and the peril that awaited him. Remember the ambush that the wooers were setting for Telemachus? So that is another unsolved thread that I think subconsciously we're like, oh, yeah, but Agamemnon's son was there to avenge him. We don't have that confirmation for Odysseus. Okay. I think today's the day. I'm going to go through this Greek myths and legends book. As I said, I'm not going to read the entire story here. I do find it interesting that they include the context that Odysseus is telling this story in King Alcinous's court. And so justifying why it's told in first person, I think. This is written in prose. It's not written in meter. And very simplified language. It's leaving out all the epithets for the gods and the elements, where one line starts, as soon as the dawn came, we went forth to the empty island, not saying dawn the rosy fingered, etc. And it goes through the entire Polyphemus episode, including the whole no man stuff. And in flattening all of this, it's, one, making it more accessible to younger folk, which is always a good thing. But it's losing a lot, which is fine insofar as it encourages young people to seek out this stuff in its entirety later on, which I suppose is kind of what I'm doing on this show. A lot of my primer for these myths come from stuff like this. This is why I was so excited to find this book, particularly because I will reveal the mystery now. At the end of each of these myths, there are these little sections that I don't know for sure that I had when I was in school, but it feels like it was. And what I mean by that is the story ends and then it goes into talking about the story, and it asks some questions here. Let's ask the questions. Number 1, Odysseus and Polyphemus were as different in temperament as they were in appearance. Which of the following words describes the Greek warrior? The giant. Why? Strong, cruel, wise, thoughtful, cunning, brave, gluttonous, temperamental. Now, isn't this interesting that you have a story that is kind of flattened and simplified to making Odysseus seem like the warrior and Polyphemus to be the monster? And so, whether intentionally or not, this sort of educational attempt at a myth is contributing to the idea that Odysseus is an honorable hero without question, and that Polyphemus is a horrid monster without question. Though, how interesting would it be to see how many students chose temperamental for Odysseus rather than Polyphemus? All right, number 2. Jason, Theseus, Hercules, and Perseus depend on strength or help from outside sources for their success. They're all stories that were told in this book before Odysseus' story here. How did Odysseus outwit Polyphemus? Again, the story really emphasizing the idea of the sheep, the wine, and the no man thing. So these questions, in terms of trying to get students to think about things, are actually reinforcing very simplistic beliefs about the characters in story. Number 3, did Odysseus's actions and words give you any hints about the treatment of strangers in those days? Interesting, a good way to talk about Xenia, introducing the idea of supplication and hosting being so important to Greek mythology. The next section is expressions from mythology. What effect did the lotus have on people who ate it? If you heard that someone had passed his life as a lotus eater, what would that mean? Really trying to like pull a almost puritanical moral tale out of this. Okay, next section is words from mythology. The word is Odyssey. Odysseus wandered for 10 years after the Trojan Wars. From knowing this fact, can you guess what an Odyssey is? There's a book entitled An American Doctor's Odyssey. Can you guess its contents? No, I can't. Actually, let's do this in real time, shall we? Why not? We'll make this a special episode. I've never even heard of this book. An American Doctor's Odyssey. Can you guess its contents? Let me give you my guess before I look it up. I'm going to say it's a doctor, an American doctor, going across America, treating different people or learning different things, or maybe a little bit of both, and the friends he makes along the way. That's going to be my guess. Let's take a look at what this book actually is. An American Doctor's Odyssey. Is a famous 1936 autobiography by public health physician Victor Heiser, detailing his travels across 45 countries. Oh, wow. There's actually a Dr. Odyssey medical drama set on a cruise ship. That's about right for America. Content is memoirs covering disease prevention, public health, and tropical medicine worldwide. The opening is a famous account of surviving the 1889 Johnstown flood as a boy. Interesting. I would give myself a C+ on that. I don't feel like I was too far off on my guess. If anything, though, I would argue with the teacher if she gave me a C+ and saying, how could I guess all of the details of a particular book? I got the point of the question, which is, do you know what the word Odyssey means? Okay. Lastly, and this could be homework for us all if we want. The last section is ideas for writing. This can be kind of fun. Suppose that Hercules was trapped in Polyphemus's cave. How would he escape? Would he use his bare hands, his bow and arrows, assistance from an Olympian? What would Jason do if he were trapped there? Theseus, Perseus. Substitute another hero in Odysseus's place. Describe his escape from the Cyclops. Why does it all gotta be dudes? How would Ariadne escape from Polyphemus? How would Phaedra, Persephone, how would Circe escape from Polyphemus's cave? That's what I want to know. But I'm expecting all of you to write up some short stories and send them to me. I will read them on air. Second writing prompt is this. Odysseus might have outwitted a different monster on another adventure. What kind of monster? Part man, part plant? A mountain that came to life? How would the monster terrify its victims? Create a monster and write about Odysseus's encounter with it. Well, setting aside that it is taking for granted that we assume Polyphemus is a monster, I'm all for this. Tell me another island that Odysseus goes to. I want to read your stories. If I had the time, I'd be writing a few of my own. But I've got some extra projects that I'm working on, and excited to be announcing those in short time. What a interesting walk down memory lane of being put back into grade school and how kids actually encounter these myths. I'm going to hold this book nearby in case we ever want to go back to it for something else down the line. In fact, I could have. Let's see if Agamemnon's even in here. That seems like a little harsh for a kid, but Helen is in here. The wooden horse is in here. Yep, no Agamemnon. Oh, the pomegranate seeds. I just talked about that when I talked about Persephone. Okay, that's all I've got for today. Join me here tomorrow as we move into the last third of Book 11. Until then, okay, goodbye. Odyssey is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. The show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Odyssey, written by Homer. Theme song by Neuroflow. You can support this show and other shows like it by going to patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.